Becky, why don't you take it from here and introduce our featured speaker?
Jim wrote me a few words to say, but I wanted to say that I met Jim last
August.
earlier this year in August up at the Corning Museum of Glass. I had been aware of his work for a while, but met him in person, and then I found out that he was going to be teaching at Corning again. We were in a class together, and he's going to be teaching at Corning in a couple of weeks. So I thought it was a great opportunity for him to get ready to teach at Corning, and so he worked out a presentation to give to us, and so we're in for a treat for sure. So we're pleased to welcome Jim Scheller, whose work approaches process as a way of thinking rather than a fixed recipe. Jim is best known for his Ancient Rings series, vessels built from thousands of small glass elements where structure, repetition, and technical discipline create space for discovery during the making. In this talk, Jim will share his process, not as a step-by-step instruction, but as a design methodology, showing how tools, tests, and physical decisions guide each body of work as it takes form. Please join us in welcoming Jim Scheller. Go ahead, Jim.
Hi. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak to a group from the town of my birth. I was born at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, a long time ago when they were still using horses and everything. So let's see, I need to share, right?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, bam. Okay, great. So this is where I work, out on the prairie of the Macoupin County in southern Illinois, just 50 miles north of St. Louis, right on the other side of that windmill, which you can't see the road, but next to those trees is old Route 66. So this is looking out from my place. This is where the thinking really happens, here in Staunton, Illinois. And before any piece really begins to form, these are really where the ideas come in. Let's see if I can do this right. Okay. So when people ask about process, they usually expect a sequence of steps. But what I want to do today instead is how ideas take shape, even long before the piece exists, because that's what I think is where for me that's where the work begins. I do a lot of sketching in my notebook. I sketch in my notebook while I'm making pieces because things pop into my head and come to mind. And I found myself just rolling from one side of the table down to the other side to sketch something in the book because I don't want to lose it. So Becky asked for me to show a little bit of work prior to Ancient Rings, and these are this I'm going to show you three different series or three different concepts. There was a series of big bowls which were inspired by the art of the paintings from artists of the De Still period. And so these are homages. I wasn't inventing a language at this point. I was borrowing a language of Monrain and the others to really understand how the glass behaves and how the pieces of glass were going to bend and form. These are big pieces. They're made in sink molds. They're not sinks, but they're made in sink molds. So I've made those, and this was about discipline, the discipline of doing this, and really, I did a lot of perfection of the cutting of glass in these pieces. They were a lot of fun. Let's see. So then, this is where the container really changed, where I went from the big bowls into these. You guys, I'm sure, are familiar with the three-step molds that Bullseye sells. That shape always was appealing to me. I had purchased these molds when I lived in Portland. Well, for 30 years, I lived outside the Portland area, and that's where I got started in glass, was because Bullseye was there. But for 30 years, I lived out in the forest of the Chehalem Mountain, west of Portland. And it was just a 20-minute drive down to Bullseye from there. Probably it's longer now because traffic's gotten worse. But that was very convenient. I cannot hop in my car now and go down and buy a piece of glass where I'm at now. So it makes me think a little bit more. I place orders about every couple months. So these are three pieces that are still based upon the work of some of the artists of that period, paintings of that period, but into this three-step mold where, like I was saying, I purchased these molds when I was living in Oregon, but I'd never used them. I tried once and just didn't, sort of gave up. But when I got back here to the studio that I have in Illinois, I got into using them. So these pieces were really where I committed to the shape of the deep vessel and have stayed with it, and really learned how to make those molds work. You know, how to make things come out the way I'd hope, and how to really study the way things deform in this particular mold, which is really fun. So, you know, why the vessel? Here I've got three different pieces. The first two still inspired by work that Clay did, the young tree and the twittering birds. And then the third one on the right is a composition of my own. But for me, the vessel's not just a form. It's one of our oldest ideas. It's a great shape, but for me, it's about culture. Vessels exist because we have an instinct to hold, to protect things. They contain things that we need. The vessel asked me to think about what it's going to be. It's visible, and then on the outside, and kind of sometimes hidden on the inside, sometimes not. And they hold memory, emotion, belief. And they've been going on for a long, long time, that shape. And I really like this one. So that's vessel compositions. That was a few of the pieces out of the vessel compositions series that I did. I then went to explore more about how lines behave. You know, so these are pieces from the line series. You know, I made several of these, many of these. I think overall, in these the series, all of the series that I've used, this particular mold, I'm well past 200, 300 pieces. But these were real interesting because they allowed me to study how the things deform. I mean, I'll show you later on in this presentation what things look like when it's a flat 2D disc. But then how does it change when it reaches this? So on the first picture on the left, those are straight lines, obviously. But when it slumps into the shape, you get these very nice arcs. They're appealing to me. I really want to get rid of this. I'm seeing everybody's face. Oh, there we go. I figured out how to turn it off. Okay, so yeah, and then the third piece on the right is a study in reactions. So you've got some French vanilla on some dense white, but still that vessel shape. And you know, it wasn't really as much. Well, I was decorating the vessel, but also I was just testing how ideas travel. And this is where repetition of how I was doing the work really was important. It really started to matter. Basically, I got pretty good at doing to where I was satisfied with the progress I was making in using this particular molds. So then the series I've been working on for now, it's 3 years, I think, is the Ancient Rings. And this is the first piece. This is Ancient Rings 1. When it came out, I didn't have a name for the series, but when it came out of the kiln, it felt really, really old. It felt petrified, like a tree ring, something that I really liked. And I said, I need to explore this more. The idea that the French vanilla made a really nice canvas for the design elements or the designs that go into the bowl was really appealing to me. The reaction that the French vanilla does with itself, while not chemical reaction, it really makes these nice lines that I really like. So in the beginning, in this very first one, you can see the lines are very orthogonal. There's it's almost all right angles, not much deviation from that. And they take a long time to make. This particular, with the orthogonal lines, takes less time than the current pieces that I'm making. But at the time that I made this, it took me forever. Just cutting the thousands of pieces of 9 by 9 millimeter glass takes quite a bit of time. And I guess you time to think because there's not much else you can do except cut piece after piece after piece. So cut the sheet into strips and cut those down into very small pieces. Everything before this particular piece was preparation when I look back on it. All the work that I did originally, and then the last series that I've shown you was I feel like was preparing me to do this kind of work. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so this is moving on past number 1, where I started exploring different colors. The tints are really attractive to me, as are the one on the left. I really like the way that the tints show off the light. I really like the way the light goes through the vessel, and that was really something that I've continued to focus on after first seeing this. So the tints on the left, some less tint, if you will, colors on the other two. Everything feels very architectural here. The one on the left reminded the Arkansas Museum of Glass of their new museum building that they put up, and they had contacted me to make some pieces for them for their gift shop, which was fun. And yeah, so like I'm saying, that very architectural. So here I'm the system of how these designs come together is being imposed on the farm. And the way that the glass is bending and the way that the colors are behaving are very interesting to me. So again, still haven't lost some of the influence of clay. These are later on in the series where there's a couple inspirations going on here. But you can see Clay's young tree is happening in here as a base. And then inspirations that came from nature, plants that I saw in Arizona, for example. And then on the right, just a very abstract sort of design. you can see here that the orthogonality is starting to stretch. Things are starting to become, it's still orthogonal, but there's something else happening here. I'm starting to work with reactions with dense white, the one on the right. And this is the point where the notebook really came in handy, because the ideas, or it became essential, the ideas that came to mind as I was assembling these over a 2-week period, probably, or a week of assembly, would just pop in my head. I'd get some different ideas, just feeling how the piece was coming together, how a particular piece that I was working on was coming together would inform and give me ideas for the next piece. And they were coming on fast. It's very exciting. Okay, so then after all the straight lines, something really changed. Curves came to mind. The idea of having a curve shape on the vessel as opposed to the orthogonal was really, again, exciting. Really something that it was something that I wanted to pursue in going forward. So these are examples of introducing some new colors other than the French vanilla to make reactions. So forcing a reaction where one shouldn't be by applying color to the sheets of glass to in this case on the right, to a blue glass, applying some powder to the sheets and then cutting them into pieces and using those pieces to build these vessels. And I started to think about, was still thinking about how things change from the 2D to the 3D, and trying to, and then achieving an understanding of how the 2D might hopefully look in the 3D. So visualizing that, and sometimes it came pretty close. Not all the time. It was it felt really good, and really starting to use continuing to use more translucency and bringing these shadows onto the surface. The rings at the bottom became something that I put in almost all of the pieces recently, putting a ring at the bottom of the glass so that you get that halo, I guess you could call it, at the bottom, and the green in the center, how the different greens showed up on the surface beneath the vessel, is something that I would always go for. I would always try to think, how can this happen in the 2D design? And yeah, so I was kind of deciding the curves, but they appeared when they appeared. It was like the vessel was really speaking to me at this point. These then continue with that. There's several in the series that are similar but different, and these were all very in hindsight, architectural in their look, but not really architectural when I was conceiving them, and that really really surprised me when these came out. And I should have put a picture of this, but I didn't. A picture of the Parthenon in Rome, and I looked up at the ceiling of that. I saw the picture and I go, whoa, that's what I have in these vessels. So the use here of the homage sort of effect too, it's achieved by using different, not so much different colors of glass, but different values. Since the glass is these are 9 millimeters thick. And so the windows in these are the one on the left and the right. The windows in these are made darker and darker, still having the same hue, but made darker by using different layers of glass. So 1, 2, or 3 layers of glass. And maybe going from a tint, bullseye tint, to a bullseye transparent. You can really see it on the one at the left, which was shown at Blue Line Arts in Sacramento just last year, and purchased at that show too, which is always good because then I can buy more glass. Let's see. Okay, things get really interesting here. At this point, the work really stopped feeling assembled. It started feeling revealed. The vessels weren't holding a pattern anymore. The vessels were really shaping it. And in this piece in particular, you can see that happening. You can see where now the French vanilla or the ivory is not horizontal with the lip in every case. The French vanilla is really following the pattern of the curve. It's reinforcing the curve. It's reinforcing, and in some cases, it's juxtaposing with the curve. On the right view, you can see that plainly what was going on. These are following the blue curve, but up here, the change in direction it yielded a very interesting result. This is the same vessel, just 3 different views. Okay. And we're still playing with reactions. These curves where the black line shows is really the reaction between the French vanilla and the dense white curve that's placed in there. So here's a little video that I made for y'all that shows the assembly process. So I think if it works, it will be good. And it's not. There it goes. So I started taking these. I want to grab this. It's supposed to stop, but it's not going to stop. There we go. So I started taking photographs in the same position so I could see really how things were coming together. The whole idea here is that I'll take curves that I've created these curves by slumping the glass over stainless steel pipes and some stainless steel forms that I have, different shapes and different sizes. And in this one in particular, there was an idea with a sketch, but it wasn't solidly defined. So this is not just copying the sketch. This is letting the piece evolve as I was assembling it. So I would take a curve, a physical curve, and move it around in the piece to see how I liked it and how it behaved and what the curve was telling me about what direction to go in, how I should place the French vanilla pieces, how I could use squares or lines in addition to the curves to get the different effects. placing these. If you can see my cursor, the little arrow area here. And these curves are coming in. And then the transition from the 2D to the 3D, just I really enjoy. You can see how these following that pattern with the French vanilla and then cutting over and going back to the lines being parallel to the top and the bottom created a very interesting I guess you can be the judge if it's interesting. Created a dynamic that I think is interesting. Okay. So I guess what I'm saying here is that the glass started to direct the work, and the curves started to direct the work. The vessels, especially at this one, this is where I really noticed it, that the vessels were really deciding, the curves were really deciding as I built the pieces. Okay, this next one. I'm not going to walk you through the steps. I'll take some questions later, but I don't want to necessarily walk you through the steps, but I just wanted to demonstrate the level of attention in the work. And being attentive to what's going on in the piece allowed me to really listen to what the vessel was saying, what ideas were coming up. And so you can see in the four photographs on the left, this was laying out, all the different curves, bunch of curves, lay them out until I get something that feels good, looks good, that I like. And it's surprising that the piece actually likes. And then filling in the spaces, the negative space in the curves, deliberately thinking about, how should the curve, which of these curves should I follow? Should I follow this curve? Should I follow this curve? Which one? Should I follow this curve? How should it go? And then this is the piece that results. Something that really says I'm flowing. Everything's flowing. This one feels like it's moving to me. This is I need to make another one like this. These, technically, and I will talk about it, these are, it's created a slab, just a 3-layer thick piece of glass with an amber. It's not black, it's an amber, and it's not very translucent, but it is a little bit. It's not a tint. Sandwiched between some dense white pieces, and then taking that flat piece, cutting it up on the tile saw, and curving it over stainless steel forms. So the attention and listening and is what made this work for me. This one was especially enjoyable. Okay, then this one. At this point, before I was looking for, I'm no longer searching for a language. In this particular one, and at this stage in the ancient rings, they've evolved to where there's some reasonable ideas, if you will, but also some real exploration here, where I'm following a curved line around a circle, and then using curves that in this case are the same color, the French vanilla. And so the canvas is really not as much a canvas as it was in the first one, in Ancient Rings 1 and second ones. the canvas of French vanilla has now become very integral with the rest of the rest of the colors. And you can see, in studying this, you can see how the circles change into ovals. I mean, it's what happens. So it's the constraint, but that constraint in the process is harnessed, I guess, might be a good word, harnessed to create the design. And still thinking a lot about how's it going to light up? How are things going to look in the 3D? Thinking about what it might be, and then when it's done, what it might be while you're doing it in 2D, while it's being assembled in 2 dimensions flat, thinking about where it's going to go in 3 dimensions, and then seeing, oh, was I thinking like the glass? Was I thinking like the kiln? Becky, like Steve says, Steve Klein, is have I thought like the glass, or did the glass fool me? It's always very satisfying. Okay. Okay, so now these are the most recent pieces where if you look down from the top of these, they're based on an Archimedes spiral where every 10 degrees or every 15 degrees from the center out, it becomes further and further from the center. And what happens when it's slumped into the 3D, it becomes a diagonal across the surface of the vessel. And this was a really, these are a real rewarding study of what can actually happen. It's a way of thinking that just keeps unfolding as I continue in the series. And each piece that I make, and I'm on 93 now in this series with a lot of stuff in a sketchbook. Each piece teaches me how to make the next one. And that's the thing I'm still listening to, the part that I'm still listening to, which keeps me going. I think I'm close to the end here. I am. So
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much.
We've got some questions in the chat for you. I can start with there. Yeah.
This is my first Zoom, by the way. I hope I did okay for you guys.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. So the first question, which some people seem to have answered, was which bullseye white do you use?
Yeah, so it's a French vanilla, the number one, the French vanilla. And then I use dense white. However, in some of those that you saw, I started using a translucent white. So for some of the lines that you saw, I've used a translucent white, which I found very interesting. So yeah, it's primarily French vanilla is the ancient rings, and then translucent white and dense white.
And let's see, Chloe asks, what is the approximate thickness of the end piece, and does it change much from the original width of the strips you cut?
They're 9 millimeters, and it stays 9 millimeter, if that's what you're saying. You mean the thickness of the vessel versus the thickness of the disc? That's constant. Right. That doesn't change. And that's one of the things that I like about the slumping as opposed to draping. I mean, I like them both. I've done them both. Not draping, drop rings. The drop rings, they get thin, And I've had drop rings where I've started out with the thing is this tall, and by the time I get it, it's a little teacup because it keeps breaking. But these are all 9 millimeters, top to bottom.
Mhm.
Uh,
So, Jill had asked, related to that, are you using billets for the transparent colors?
some of them I was. Good catch.
Yeah.
On the one of the clay trees where I had the three clay-inspired pieces, the one on the right, those were billets. So I have a lot of billets from when I was casting. And I just cut them up on the tile saw. And yes, the billets work really nice. Where for design elements, where
Mhm.
they kind of fall short though, or where you're constrained, not fall short, that's not the right word. Where you get constrained is that they're always going to be the same thickness. Okay. And by using sheet glass to make some of the windows, that gives you the ability uh, to get the different value of the same hue and that homage uh, effect. Yeah.
Becky comments, well, how nice the photography is, and is asking, are you photographing these yourself?
I am. I
Oh,
am.
want to give us some hints?
Oh, I should give you a. Here, let's see if you can see this. I have some pictures of my photo studio somewhere in this computer, but I don't know if. Okay, so what I've done. Oh, this may not work. Can you see that?
Kind
Ah,
of.
okay.
Put it in front of your face. That's usually how it works
Yeah.
best. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this is basically I've got 3 tent lights over the top of a table that has white, a roll of white paper coming out. And you can see this is by my computer, so I can, you know, one is just with the left light, two is with the left and the top, three, four, that whole thing. So that's how I do it. I mean, that's important, the lighting. So that's the lighting. I have that permanently set up uh, in the house here, not in the studio, but in a room back in the house. And I used to use a 35 millimeter SLR. My phone is much better. The phone really works well for this
It's
stuff.
true.
So
Those lenses have gotten so smart.
it's amazing. It's amazing. So I couldn't, my gosh, even I'm blurry um, on this picture. Yeah, so that's a table that I set up, and that's always a really fun part when it's all done to
Mhm.
to photograph it. So I've got those 3 lights on that table, and I have a power strip that has 3 switches on it. So I set up my phone on the tripod with a Bluetooth shutter, and I can stand there and change the lighting. So I go click, 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 click. So I can get 5 really not, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 really nice photographs of the piece. And then I'll bring them into the PC here and do some Photoshop, uh, making decisions about it, which piece to use on my website and in my catalog. Yeah, so I do them
Thank you
all
for
myself.
sharing that. That's very insightful. Appreciate it. Um, a few other questions, and then I'd love to share with you some of the lovely comments here as well. Um, let's see. Do you always work from a sketch? Are you changing? Are there changes as you work? And do you ever work without a design, a first design?
Um, Most of the time it's a sketch. The detail of the sketch varies. Okay. So for the very first one, just an idea, just some lines, on a piece of paper. And then I got real religious about using a notebook. Uh, I didn't at first. but I did get very, very, uh, the notebook is very important to me now. So I don't always use a sketch, and the level of sketch will vary. Well, I'd like to go back to some of these. The last ones that showed you with the Archimedes spiral, where the
Mhm.
diagonal line shows up. Those are very detailed sketched, okay, because I want to measure. I want to measure by the millimeter how far from the center things have to go. So some of them are very detailed, uh, but they're not patterns in the sense that I can lay it down and have a pattern. They're just a more involved sketch, uh, or a more
So Kathy
involved.
also wanted to
Drawing.
know, sorry, do you
Hmm?
do you ever work from without a first design and just go for
No, no,
it?
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question from Nikki.
But I
Have
but
you
I do have
made,
to say,
oh, I'm
even
sorry.
though I don't
Yeah.
work from a first design, they'll evolve while I'm building them. Some of them very extensively. There's a lot of evolution during assembly with some of them because I'll start feeling it. I bet it's true. They do speak as you're building them. Mine do.
Mhm. Let's see. Nikki asks, have you made vessels using the smaller set of three molds and how did they differ?
The smaller three-step molds, are they? Are there some? I wish I could find some. Do you guys know of smaller three-step molds?
Nikki, you say you want to unmute yourself and share?
She doesn't.
No, you're still muted. Can I unmute you? No.
Yeah, I have a set of three from Creative Ceramics. I think that's where I got them originally from our local Weiser State Glass locally, and they're the same three sets. They're just like an inch or two smaller, all three.
Really? Because
Yeah.
I've actually had a potter here create three molds, 50% scaled down, but they don't work well.
Mm.
So they were made. I asked him to make them out of porcelain, and they're just not as smooth as so I've never tried. Nikki, I'd really be interested in
Well,
knowing.
I'll send you the numbers and a picture of
Perfect.
them.
Are they creative? Are they
Yeah,
European?
same company.
Really? Oh, that's
Yeah, I got them
great.
about 5 years ago. I made several of the deep bowls after taking Heron's class and really enjoyed it. So I thought, okay, so I got a set for silver for no contamination, and I got a set of small ones.
Beautiful. Nikki, I really look forward to seeing that.
Okay.
Yeah. So
That's
you took
great.
Carl's class.
Yeah, years ago.
Oh, no, it's been years ago. He hasn't taught in a while. I've never taken a class from him. Uh, I just
Well,
know
then how
somebody.
did you learn how to manipulate to keep the hot side, but
Yeah.
it's a whole process that
Yeah.
that you do, at least I do at my bigger kiln, is to go in and count to five and manipulate to if the one edge is too high, they'll turn it up higher so the elements will
Right.
push it down and try to get the whole thing even eventually.
Yeah. No, it's very counterintuitive that you do that. I learned it by talking to name is escaping me now. She'd kill me for this. Uh, Bob Leatherbauer, for one. I think
Yeah.
he talks about that in one of his books, and he and I have become uh, communicate quite a bit. We have communicated quite a bit, and then uh, this person in Portland, whose name I can't remember, is terrible. I always admired her work. We were in the same collective kind of gallery in Beaverton, Oregon, and I always thought, man, if I were any good, I could make stuff like her. And and yeah, So just talking to people and then trying it out. That's why I was talking about the vessel compositions series
Yeah.
and the line series. That was where I really got to uh, practice, if you will, how it would work by using one of those was only one thickness of glass, one sheet of
Yeah.
glass
Yeah.
where I had drawn on. So yeah, just that's how I did it.
Have
And
you
Mike Phil,
done
Which,
just
5 and 6 and 7 layers?
no, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't.
um, yeah, excuse me, Nikki. Dawn had a question. Dawn, did you want to unmute and ask your
Yeah.
question?
Hi, Jim.
I
I contacted you a while back and asked you if you taught any class, and you said no. But here's a radio recording of what I interview I did. Like, okay, I'm so disappointed, but okay. But I wanted to say, watching you, watching your bowls and all has inspired me in my work, and so it's just I want to say thank you for the inspiration because watching, I'm inspired every time I see your creations. I'm like, how can I use this in my own work? And it's really by watching what you do and how you do it, because I'm also an artist, and I try to uh, um, break down how you retro engineer how you did it, and I'm like, okay, I think I got it, and it, and some of my work it really works. It's really good. So thank you.
oh, you're welcome. You know, when you asked me that, I wasn't going to teach. I had no, I shouldn't say desire, but I didn't know how I could even teach this. And I guess I still have to find out if it could happen. But I see on this call my good friend Daryl Barry, who's my TA at Corning. So Daryl, uh, yeah, I've been asked to teach several times, and I would have to, uh, regretfully not accept an invitation because I couldn't figure out how to do it. But then I got a
This may
call.
be the start of it, though, Jim, because you really shared a lot of the basics. So hold
Yeah,
on to your PowerPoint.
yeah, yeah, I did. So, but when Corning called, I said, that's the call you don't turn down. So they approached me just out of the blue and said, would you do this? And I said, yeah, okay, we'll try. So it's a week. That's the thing. And each one of these takes 2 weeks to do. So
Mhm.
for me, and so I've come up with an idea of how to do it, where we're going to do maquettes that can be used as design elements in a future piece if the student wants to do it. So there'll be two parts to the class. One where we actually build some pieces, and we'll make a lot of samples for colors because that's real important. The different layers of colors, and to use those and lay those out while you're thinking about the piece and making decisions. So we'll full fuse some pieces, and then the slumping will be done with single sheets of glass because there's no time. I mean, you're looking at 3 nights out of 5, so that's what we're going to do.
That sounds exciting. I'd love to share with you some of the comments that folks had made during your presentation.
Okay.
Chloe says, these are so fun and beautiful. And Karen adds, I love these trees and tracks. Jim?
Love the what? Oh, the trees and the tracks.
Trees and tracks, trees and
Okay, there you
tracks.
go.
And Liz says, I love the effect of the tints. Beautiful. And Chloe agrees, so beautiful. Um, that's Tama says, stunning works. And we've got a lovely, loving face from Karen Wallace. And Leah Powell says, love that. Each piece teaches me how to make the next one. That is
Ah,
beautiful.
Karen's in there. Hey, Karen.
Yeah. Um, And Chloe says, that makes sense. Slumping, not draping. I think
Yeah.
we've all been there. Um, And let's see if anything I've missed. Oh, I think you just answered this, but Chloe had asked, I likely missed it, but are the blanks full fused?
Yes.
They are. Okay.
Yeah. So the first step is to assemble and full fuse that at 1490, and then the slumping.
Okay.
3 nights of slumping. So I'll start up the kiln so that it's at process temperature at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll make some coffee, go out there and watch it for 3 hours. Take a peek every 10 minutes at first, and then when it gets deep enough, go look every 20 minutes when it's not salvageable. When it gets deep enough that you can't tilt the mold and make it flat or make it level. Yeah, so that's the way that works.
And let me add here that Karen says, your work is so beautiful, and I love the language of the bowls and how they speak to you. Thank you so much. And Chloe says, oh, I am game. Thank you, Dawn. Dawn, what was that about? And the training, I guess. And Carol says, I am so inspired. Thank you. And Sherry adds, thank you so much. I love your take on combining French vanilla and transparents. And Michelle adds, reminds me of baskets, the weaving,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some pieces, if I didn't show any of them here, but there are some pieces that are very much inspired by baskets, and going to a lot of inspiration from baskets of the Southwest, going to some museums in Tucson and here just in St. Louis, there was at the St. Louis Art Museum, a great display of baskets, Native American baskets. So there's a lot. And sometimes I don't think about the basket, but the baskets are inspiring me without me knowing it sometimes.
Well, they're stunning, all of them. And I thank you for sharing. Does anyone else have questions? You can raise your hand, your little hand. Yes, Becky, go for it.
I just wanted to ask Jim to talk a little bit about the show that he had of the ancient rings, and you have a book, I think, and also about your website. Isn't it on Artist Archive?
Oh yeah, we were talking about that the other day, Becky. Yes. So my website is jimscheller.com, but if you go to that website, you'll see one picture of the ancient rings. All the series are there. If you or a link to those, when you click on the ancient rings image, that launches an artwork archive display.
I'm an artwork archive advocate as well, Jim. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, I don't know how I'd survive without it. It's so good. The private rooms sharing, like a gallery will contact me and they'll say, and I'll create a private room. It says, these are the pieces that are available if you want, that I have in inventory that you can select from it. So it's really helpful in communicating with galleries and just keeping track of things.
Right.
It's very good. Highly recommend.
Yeah, for those of you who might remember, in August, we had a presentation from Artwork Archive for the Guild members. And if anybody still wants more information about that, you can contact me. But yeah, it's nice to hear you talk about it.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I got turned on to it by Steve Immerman. He's been a big believer of Artwork Archive for years. That's the first place I heard of it.
And, Steve is going to speak to the Guild in November.
Good. Good deal.
I have one more question. Jim, how is your competition with your son in the glass work? He has
another job. He's not a full-time artist. So I've got many more hours in glass than he can put in. But it's fun. Having him do it is really exciting. See, we lived in Oregon, and this is the area where we grew up. I grew up in the next town over. These are all little towns of 2,000 people. And our son lives in what used to be his his great-grandfather's home at the town just 5 miles away. And so he comes over and uses the studio. And that's really why we moved back, was after Oregon, was moved back here, not to get away from the beautiful scenery in the mountains and the ocean, but to be closer to family. And so it's really, it's great that he can come over and work in the studio. And we trade ideas all the time, and I'll make a design comment on his work, and he's made it very clear that comments on technique are okay, Dad, but don't be telling me how to design.
You can see some of his son's Philip. Is it Philip?
Yeah, Phil.
Yeah, his there's a link through Jim's site if you want to see
That's right.
some of his son's work.
Yep. There's some of Phil's work in there. And he's got some pieces down at Phil Baum Gallery down in Tucson as well. Allison took some pieces of his. So
Okay.
Thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you so
thank you
much
guys. This is fun. What a great group.
Well, good,
Oh,
and
good.
you'll be getting a complimentary membership, so you'll be able to join us for other meetings that we have.
Terrific. Thanks so much.